Namaskaram, Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, Sloka 21. In this sloka, Bhagavan says, free from expectations, sense of ownership, with mind and intellect fully controlled, they incur no sin, even though performing actions by one's body. So, this is what Lord Krishna says in this sloka. In this sloka, he talks about the intention of mind towards action, how we involve our mind with thoughts to do any action. So, how those thoughts have to be erased, because the thoughts only take us to negative actions, and thoughts keep us away from divine consciousness. So here he talks about those who work in divine consciousness are released from sins, and mind is free from attachment towards objects, attachment towards people, and every act is performed with divine intention and pleasure, and for pleasure of God. If it is done that way, even if you do karma, that karma will not have any reactions. So he is highlighting here the status of karma yogi, because everyone has to perform the karmas. So when karma yogi following all this, and he does karma for the body, but there he will not get into sins. There will not be accumulation of sins. For example, when you are visiting a temple, and when you visit temple, the place where you are, we have to maintain silence. It's a divine place where you have got vibrating power. That vibration is associated with the God's power. So naturally you feel the divinity, and your mind should be full of thoughts about God. Either you should be chanting mantras, or you should be recalling what you read about the God. So everything should be, all your thoughts should be only around God. So that stops you from talking. So you don't feel like talking, because the mind does not allow you, because mind is full of thoughts about, so mind is thinking of only God. So the intellect is not allowing you to talk. So you are not talking there. So this comes automatically, because the mind which is functioning with thoughts. So that we have to give such thoughts to our mind. The same way when you enter library, there we have to maintain silence, so that thought is there that we should maintain silence there, we should not talk. And those thoughts, not to talk, and the knowledge we receive from that, and the thoughts of books, what do? They quiet down our body, so that there is no reaction from it. That is, we don't show any action, because mind is full of thoughts, and intellect is not to make noise. So what happens? There is a fence created around our mind, so we don't shout, we don't make noise there in such places. So the mind is tuned to remain silence. Lord Krishna says this, he says, you contemplate on higher ideal. So when you contemplate on higher ideal, naturally you will not give attachment towards body and mind. So you will be thinking of only Atma. You will seek for Atma Jnana when you are contemplating on higher ideal. So that God always says you have to think of only higher ideal. So mind and body will automatically become quiet when you contemplate on higher ideal, because it is not Mind is not functioning on its own because it has got good thoughts, divine thoughts, because you are giving the divine knowledge, you are giving the spiritual knowledge to the mind. So the thoughts are also divine. And the intellect is intellect's controlling mind. The same way, when we earn something and out of that money we buy some objects, what do we do? It is my money. I out of my money I bought it. So you get into that. When you visit any foreign country, you buy some certain goods. Then you feel proud of it and you claim that it's yours. So what happens? The ego gets inflated there. So and you attach yourself to the objects and you feel proud of that ownership and you become slave to those objects. It is not good because that ownership should not be there. We should behave on the earth like renter versus owner. God is the owner for everything. So whatever is available on the earth, the nature provides, created by God. And the knowledge converts the raw materials into finished products. So how can we claim that it is ours? So you be like a renter. Your God is the owner and you are just enjoying it for time being as a renter. So if you develop that thought, then we will not identify ourselves with body, mind, intellect and objects. Instead, we will identify ourselves with Atma. So I am Atma, I am not Deham. So this concept will be developed in our mind. So naturally what happens? We have all the qualities of Karma Yoga. We will not claim ownership, our body and mind is fully controlled, and even we do activities relating to body, we will not have sins out of that karma. This is what explained by Lord Krishna in this sloka, 21 sloka. Then 22nd sloka, Bhagavan says, you should be happy with whatever you have. That is, what is given to you by God. Be happy with that. But that you have earned and you have earned it, and be happy with it, whether it is less or more, and develop that contentment. Don't have any greediness and no envy. You don't envy others. Then you be beyond all the dualities, likes, dislikes, day, night, brightness and darkness. So you have got dualities everywhere, but you live beyond that. Don't give importance to both. And equipoised in success and failure. Treat both equally. When you get success, don't jump up and down. And when you have failure, don't moan over it. So that is what equipoised. And the people who follow all this, they are not bound by actions even while performing all kinds of activities. So that karmic reactions will not be there even they perform the activities, because they are karma yogis. Therefore they are happy with what they have. They do not have any envy feeling, and they are beyond all the dualities of life. So they are very well understood that the dualities are the two sides of a coin: joy, sorrow, hot, cold, dark, or day, night. And we find rose in a thorny plant. We find beautiful rose. In the same plants we find thorns also. Then we accept that. So in life we find the dualities. We have to live with that and don't give importance to either of that. So if we follow that, we will not be getting attracted towards the objects of the earth. So there is no joy as well as no sorrow. When you don't get it, you will not get disappointed. When you get it, you will not feel the happiness. This is like how Lord Rama, the previous day the celebration was going on for his coronation. But the next day itself he was asked to go for Vanavasa. But Rama accepted both. He was in the same mental condition even while father announced him that he was going to be the Yuvaraja. The next day when he was asked to go to Vanavasa, he accepted. He didn't feel upset or anything because he accepted both. So this is how our life should be. And we should have both the experiences and we should rise above them. So life is full of all kinds of experiences and we should not get stuck to that and come up above that by following the scriptures, by following the way the avatars. God made so many avatars, like Rama we can live, like Krishna we can. So they have shown us the path how to live. So whenever you have sorrow, whenever you have a very happy occasions, and how to handle it, that is what the scripture says. The way we accept all that. So you rise above them. How do you? How can we do that? By having the view of if you are equipoised in success and failure, you will not be affected by all this, and you get yourself detached from fruits of action and do the karma. You work for pleasure of God. So if you follow that, there is no disappointment. There is no, when you get anything what you want, you will not be overjoyed. Periyalvar, one of the Alvars, he was living by doing kainkariam to God. He used to make garland from his garden, and he make garland, and he used to, that is, he was maintaining a beautiful garden, and what he was doing was he used to pluck the flowers from the garden and make beautiful garlands and offer it to God every day. Only that karma was done by Periyalvar. That is, he engaged himself only in that, and he was very happy in doing that. And once the king of that area, he wanted to announce that he wanted to know the Parampurul, that is what is eternal. So he had a doubt regarding that. So he invited all the jnanis to give him the explanation. Then God appeared in his dream and God told him to go and participate in that. But Periyalvar said, no, I don't have any formal education. There will be so many scholars. No, I can't be with them. I can't be sitting amongst them. So I don't want to go. But God said, no, you just think of me and go and see what happens. Then Periyalvar obeyed his instructions and we went to that palace, and he, with God's grace, he explained that one Lord Vishnu is the Parampurul. You have to surrender to him. That is the only thing we can get rid of all this, and that God is eternal, and moksha is the only most pleasurable thing for us. We should aim to attain that. So he gave explanation, and the king was very much impressed, and he offered him, because he already announced that whoever gives me the proper answer will be awarded a bag of gold coins. Then Periyalvar was given that gold coins, and Perumal, knowing about it, he came on Garuda with his concerts and appeared before Periyar to congratulate him. And Periyalvar offered whatever was given by king to him to Lord, because he said, no, I am not interested in all this. You asked me to go there, I went there and I talked about you, and everything was given by you. So that I cannot claim anything of my own, and I am offering this also to you. So he offered that. So we should also develop such kind of bhava, because we cannot claim it, and we should be happy with what we have. So everything is given by God. If we should accept it as prasadam, when even just one kavalam of prasadam we get in the temple, we feel so happy, and we feel it is more tasty, and we will be having that, we enjoy relishing that for hours together. So that, because that is prasadam, that's a gift given by God. So When we should have that kind of bhavam, we should be happy with the prasadam. We should treat everything as prasadam of God. So Karma Yogi goes by that way only. That is why he is contented with what he has. So Bhagavan says how to be Karma Yogi. You be a Karma Yogi and do your work and don't stop your karma. And what do we do? Usually, the general tendency of people, when someone is above our financial status, we develop envy and we become envy of them. And see, anyone is below our social status or economic status, and we feel proud of ourselves. Don't do all that. So Karma Yogi he doesn't have this kind of thought. So when you have envy, develop enviness, what happens? You develop ego also. So one by one you find the negative qualities getting accumulated. So don't have all that. And Karma Yogi is not affected by external situation. That is what this sloka says. Even if he does the activities, but the activities will not create any karmic reactions to him. So this sloka makes us understand how we can be a Karma Yogi and what are the characteristics of a Karma Yogi, then how Karma Yogi can perform karma without getting into pavam and punyam. The next sloka we find, 23rd sloka. In 23rd sloka, but that's a recall of all the 5 slokas what Bhagavan said earlier. So this is a consolidation of all the 5 previous slokas. So in this sloka, God says soul is eternal and you dedicate all your karmas to God. When you say that soul is eternal and soul is by nature, soul is a servant of God because it's a fragment of God only. So it is divine. We should have this in our mind. Soul is a servant of God, so that we should make efforts to understand Atma. We should develop that Atma Jnanam. Only then we realize Paramatma who dwells in Atma. So whatever karma we do, it should be in the yajna spirit. A sacrifice we should do. And yajna spirit is not only for anything to do with the divinity or to do any the karma pertaining to God or temples. For any karma we do, it should be in the yajna spirit. This is as a part of life we should develop. So when you do that, you develop the power to destroy the karma vasana. The vasanas are bound by gunas. So what happens when you get into rajas and tamas guna? You develop the bad karmas. Then again, the karma has got pava and punya and our baggage gets heavier and we get more and more births. So our birth continues. So we should remove that vasanas so that we will get rid of that rajas and tamas guna. So we should get into sattvic gunas so that we will look everything and we do all karma as yajnas in the yajna spirit, so that you will be totally detached from objects and from worldly things and free from attachment and establish yourself in Atma, develop Atma Jnana. Then what happens? All our karmas will be away, it will melt. Like how ice cream melts in the presence of sun, all karmas will melt if we follow the path shown by God and if we do all karmas as a karma yogi. So this sloka talks about that, explains about that. So there should not be selfish action. If we have selfish action, that leads to negative reaction. So how the karma has got the effect? The effect is our baggage becomes heavier and we take more and more birth. So let us not develop that. So get the divine knowledge. With the divine knowledge, you develop good spirit with the nature. Be friendly with the nature, because nature uh, brings back what you give it to him. It throws to you what you are giving it is. This is what we have seen in the previous sloka also. So you work in the spirit of yajna to anything. All karmas have to be done in that way, so that we lose our identification with body, mind, intellect, and objects. Our identification should be with the soul. Nan Atma. Nan Degamalla. We should. I am Atma. I am not Degam. We should develop that. When you have that thought, what happens? You are free from all the material things. You are free from material world. You don't develop any attachment towards that. And you are doing all karmas, like you are throwing that in the fire of knowledge, so that the karma will not, whatever karma you do, the karma will not have any karmic reaction. So this is what explained in this sloka by Lord Krishna. Because every action has got a reaction. That is what we learn in science. So here we find this in our Sanatana Dharma. And Krishna has explained beautifully in Bhagavad Gita. This we can see it with two examples. One is when Yudhishthir and his brothers were coming to Duryodhana's palace after the Mahabharata war. They wanted to visit Dhritarashtra, Kandhari, so they are coming here. And they came to the palace and found nobody there. Vidura was not there, Gandhari was not there, and Dhritarashtra was not there. Then they were talking among them. So they asked Sanjaya, where are all these three? And because they were saying that we feel guilty because of this war. They moved out. So we feel we should take the responsibility to take care of them. So they were feeling upset and they were sad that they could not meet them. Then at that time, Narada visited that place, and Narada told Yudhishthir about the philosophy of life. He said, when a player is playing with the material object, play material, the contact between the player and the material will be there till that player handling that play material. So once the play material is broken or away, then that contact gets lost. So that's all. The same thing is applied to life. So we all come together, means we all meet on the earth, but as long as we are in contact with each other, the connection is there. If not there, then it is lost. We have to accept that. We can't be mourning for that. So this is what happened. They have gone to the Aranyam to do, because they have done so much of pavam. So Dhritarashtra had to get rid of that. So he had gone to Aranyam. They decided to stay there. You carry on with your work. Now you have to become a king. So carry on with your work. So you cannot stop your work. So that was advice given by Narada to Yudhishthir. So this is what life. And he also said that no one can wait for other person, or no one can stop the person who is dying also. It is not possible for people to go along with the person whom you like even to death. So life has to go. So Yudhishthir was made to understand this philosophy by Narada. So this is applicable to us also. This is how we have to approach our life. Then one more example. Urangavalli Dasar, who was a disciple of Ramanujan. He was a wrestler, and whenever he used to go with his wife on the road, he used to hold umbrella for her, and he used to see that she was well protected from sun. And people used to make fun of him, those who were around. And once Ramanujan watched this, he found out that people were making fun, and he asked his Sishyas to pass on the information to him, ask him to come to his mat. Then Varangavalidasar, he visited Ramanujan, and Ramanujan asked, people were making fun of you and you didn't bother, that did not affect you at all, you didn't bother about all that, you were doing your work, and why were you doing like that? He said, no, my wife is beautiful, her eyes are beautiful, I wanted to protect that, so that's why I used to hold umbrella, but I'm not bothered even people make fun of me. Then Ramanuja said, okay, I'll show you the more beautiful eyes. Will you come with me? He said, yes. Then he took him to Ranganatha Perumal, Sri Rangam temple. Then he made him stand before Perumal, and Ramanuja requested Perumal to open his eyes, to open his eyes. Then Bhagavan opened his beautiful eyes. He just rolled his eyes and he opened. And the moment the Varangavalidasa saw the beautiful eyes of Sri Ranganatha, he fainted. He could not bear the brightness and beauty of the eyes. Then Ramanuja woke him up, and immediately Varangavalidasa said, no, I've seen the most beautiful eyes on the earth. I will not see anything else other than this. I am ready to do. From this moment, I am doing service to Lord, and I want to become your disciple. And he became a disciple of Ramanuja, and he stayed with Ramanuja, and he did service to Perumal and Ramanuja till he sent. And at one point of time, he gave up his property, materials, gold, ornaments, everything, because he was not for money at all. He gave up his job. So you went to that extent because he was attracted by God's eyes. So he realized that only this is eternal. The body of individuals, the human beings, are perishable. So why do we develop so much of attachment to that? So Varangavalidhasan came to Varangavalidhasan only after he became a disciple of Ramanuja.